well, due to ignorance and really depravity, what was once a talking point of, well, demagogues, charlatans, and phonies is now no longer a talking point after today. Now, perhaps you're still asleep after filling your belly with a Thanksgiving meal. But if you're not asleep and you have awoken on this wonderful Black Friday, you've now discovered the political news is pretty dreary today. You see, we have 435 members of the House of Representatives in this country. That's a small number when you have 333 million citizens. And one of those Congress members, well, thought that it was necessary to make a Islamophobic remark about her co-worker. Now, I'm going to share with you the remark. I'm going to share with you what I think about this Congresswoman. And then I'm going to share with you what I think about the Congresswoman who she made the remark in response to. And then I'm going to share with you how, well, we've lost credibility on, well, an argument that America wanted to make that wasn't really necessarily credible to begin with. You know, let's start off with maybe not insulting 3.45 million of our own fellow citizens. You know, there's 3.45 million individuals who identify as being Muslim in America. Now, our opinion is all religions are cults. That's our official opinion. But you're allowed, at least that's what they used to say. Remember, we talked about Michael Flynn wanting to, well, become a nation of only one cult. You're allowed to be in whatever cult you want to be in the United States of America. And there's 3.45 million people that happen to be practicing Muslims in your country. Now, many of us know people who are Muslim. I know people who are Muslim. And all the people I know have never tried to blow me up in an elevator. Okay? So I just want to throw that out there. Nobody I know that happens to be Muslim has ever tried to blow me up in an elevator. Now, with that being said, many of you have neighbors, co-workers, who happen to identify as being Muslim. If you were at your job and you started talking around other people about your fellow Muslim co-worker, and you started sharing that you felt threatened one time when you had to get into an elevator with your co-worker because you feared that your co-worker might blow you up. If you shared that at your job with your other co-workers, I guarantee you wouldn't still have that job. You just insinuated that your coworker wants to kill you. And that's why you feel scared of your coworker. And you have only insinuated that because your coworker doesn't happen to have the same religious belief system as you. So you've insinuated that your coworker, because they're Muslim, is a terrorist. Do you know back during, maybe some of you don't because you don't remember, but after the September 11th terrorist attacks, there was a slew of Islamophobic hate crimes and attacks against the Muslim American community in this country. Because people were scared. Because they had heard that individuals who identified as being Muslim had committed a terrorist attack in their country. So there were people who responded with hatred and malice in their heart. Now there's been some time removed since September 11, 2001. 20 years removed. But there's still bigotry and hatred and malice by individuals in America towards the Muslim American community. This is fact. We see it in the hate crimes data. What Lauren Boebert suggested is that, well, she didn't feel safe around Ilhan Omar, who happens to be a practicing Muslim, when she got into an elevator with her. But because they were going only one floor, and she didn't have a backpack on, insinuating that she would have had a bomb in her backpack, she felt comfortable enough to get on the elevator and take it one floor down. And then she called her a jihadist. Now, Ilhan Omar is a congresswoman who's been in Congress longer than Lauren Boebert has been in Congress. So my first thought when I heard this was, well, if Ilhan Omar is a terrorist, as Lauren Boebert thinks she is, and she's going to get into the elevator and blow the elevator up with people inside, she's served a number of years, a number of terms now. She's been in Congress longer than you have. So if she hasn't done it in all this time, what possibly would lead you to the conclusion or belief that she would do it when you're in the elevator? I'm sure she's probably been in the elevator with members of the opposition party. And if she's a jihadist and a terrorist, she doesn't care about Democrats or Republicans. So she would have blown up anybody by now if she were going to do that. That's what logic would dictate in this whole situation if you really believe she was a terrorist, working to, well, murder members of the House of Representatives. Now, Ilhan Omar is also a parent in Minnesota of teenagers and small children. I can't imagine this year with COVID being a young woman of color and a Muslim after George Floyd and the incident that happened in Minneapolis. I can't imagine, with all the death threats that just members of Congress are getting already, what Ilhan Omar is going through. And for one of her colleagues to suggest that she feared for her life, so much so to bring it up to other people That's just so reprehensible and beyond the pale. I don't even know where to begin with that. And according to news reports, she's reached out to apologize. How can you apologize? You've just called the woman in question who you've been her co-worker all this time a potential bomber, a terrorist. You've worked with her for at least almost now a year. This is insanity. This is idiocracy. This is racism on steroids in America. This is pure, unadulterated racism. And you know, the thing of it is, when she's sharing this story, and it's being videotaped, but they don't know it's being videotaped, most of the audience starts laughing and cheering it on. Now, these would be the same people that will tell you, I'm not Islamophobic, I've got a Muslim friend. I respect Muslims. You know, there's 1.9 billion Muslims around the world. There's only 9 billion people on the planet. So really, you got to do the math. If 1.9 billion people wanted to bomb everybody who didn't subscribe to their code, we'd have probably lost half of the population of the planet by now, if that were the case. So mathematically, that can't be the case. Now, do we have some crazy deranged Muslims around the planet? Of course. We got some crazy deranged Jewish people around the planet. We got crazy deranged Christian people, plenty of them in our own country who commit terrorism, you know, like Kyle Rittenhouse. We've got deranged crazy people of all cults and all persuasions. There's plenty of mixing for the fixing when it comes to craziness in these cults. That's why we don't do cults. But we have to draw out and parse out the people who are in cults, who are normal and operating in a feasible manner. Ilhan Omar fled Somalia, which was a war-torn country at the time, and came to the United States, got educated, became a productive citizen involved in our local community, ended up running for office and winning, and has been a well-respected member of the Minneapolis community. So much so she gets overwhelmingly elected and re-elected. Go and look at the percentage of people who actually like Ilhan Omar in her district in comparison to the people who don't. Boebert wants to apologize. There's no apology you can give for that kind of remark. It was inciting. It was inciting people to, well, continue doing what they're doing all across the country, which is to psychologically commit violence against Ilhan Omar. You know now she's going to receive more death threats. More psychos are going to do more psycho crazy things because of this kind of inflammatory commentary by Lauren Boebert, who one of her own colleagues in her own party was brave enough to label as trash. Yes, Lauren Boebert is trash. She is definitely trash. She's the trashiest of trash. It doesn't get any more trashy than Lauren Boebert. Here goes a woman who at the time was a kid, allows for an adult to expose themselves to her and other minor girls. And then, well, you would think that Lauren Boebert would have exposed this sex offender, reported the sex offender. That's what all of us would do. We would report the sex offender. He just exposed himself to me, who I'm underage, and the 3 girls that I'm with are all underage. No, Lauren Boebert did something that all of us really would think long and hard to do. Instead of Lauren Boebert contacting the police about this sex offender, she decided to marry her sex offender. The people that tell you about, Joseph Rosenbaum was a pedophile. Well, Lauren Boebert married her sex offender. Newt Gingrich did the same thing too. And then Lauren Boebert, it gets a little crazier because I've heard that she's been arrested more than Tupac and Biggie ever were. Now that's hard to beat Tupac and Biggie, their rap sheet. But Lauren Boebert has been in the slammer quite a bit. Apparently she went to the slammer for being a domestic abuser. She apparently, assaulted her sex offender husband. And the local police came and arrested her and booked her in prison or in jail. Now where have we heard of domestic abusers? Oh, that's right. Anthony Huber, who Kyle Rittenhouse shot in Kenosha. All of the incel Nazis were online. Anthony Huber was a domestic abuser. Anthony Huber was a domestic abuser. Lauren Boebert is a convicted domestic abuser. Anthony Huber was never convicted of domestic abuse. He had a domestic abuse incident happen inside of his home, but no charges were ever pressed or filed. Lauren Boebert has gone to jail for domestic abuse of her sex offender husband. You don't want to get me started on the hypocrisy with these sons of bitches. Anyway, Ilhan Omar looks like, she looks clean and pristine in comparison to that, wouldn't you say? Anyway, Ilhan Omar is trying to sit and enjoy the day after Thanksgiving. And you gotta see your name trending all online because somebody wanted to be Islamophobic for no reason. Now Ilhan Omar has responded to this suggestion of her being a terrorist and wanting to, possibly blow up the elevator with Lauren Babbitt inside. She said the incident that Lauren Boebert mentioned never happened, never occurred. She called her a buffoon, which is nice, because I don't know why people use animals to describe human misbehavior. Buffoons are very smart creatures. Lauren Boebert is not as smart as a buffoon. Just want to put that out there. Anyway, she called her a liar, which is true. I doubted the incident ever happened. First off, if you really felt scared to ride in an elevator with someone you know is Muslim, you wouldn't get in the elevator or you wouldn't stay in the elevator. There's no way in the world I'm getting in an elevator and I go in and I already know this person is a Muslim and I don't trust Muslims. I think they're all going to blow me up. There's no way in the world I'm staying in a fucking elevator like that. Believe you me, I'm not that ignorant. I'm enlightened. But it's no way in the world, even if I thought that somebody wanted to blow me up, that I would stay in the elevator with that individual. Come on now, we don't do stupid things like that. So that made no sense to begin with. And now we get to the crescendo. right before the last horrible administration left office, you had the Secretary of State give an interview. Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, went on television and was very concerned about the Uyghurs in China. Now, the Uyghurs happen to be a small population who live in the autonomous zone of Xinjiang in China. Now, most of them happen to be, wouldn't you know, Muslim or identify as being Muslim. Now, the United States made a big stink about, well, the Uyghurs being persecuted and it being genocide. Even though the United States hasn't been able to provide proof that this has been occurring, there's at least been the notion that it's occurring. Now, China all this time has vehemently denied this and said the Americans are over-dramatizing the situation. They say that these are camps and they're re-educating people and retraining people. The Americans say they're genocide camps. Now, in a competition, when you don't know which side to trust, and one side is alleging something very severe, you tend to be more swayed towards that just out of precaution. But any fair-minded, objective arbitrator would have to say that argument now has been ceded, thanks to Boebert. You see, how can Mike Pompeo advocate for the Uyghurs who are Muslims in their persecution when Boebert is scared to get into an elevator with a Muslim woman because she fears the Muslim woman might blow her up? Now, President Xi can just say, well, you know, I have to have these Muslims in this camp over there, or else we fear that the Chinese population in general might get blown up. And of course we're going to go, that's ludicrous. And of course the Chinese party is going to go, well, your congresswoman was the one that suggested it. You know, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Here, let me pull it up on YouTube and play it for you. This is what she said. You remember, right? You gotta be very careful saying dumb shit. Because when you're in competition with individuals who will go and blow you up on a big screen TV and blast it all over their country. Here's what this person said about Muslims today. See, we're not in disagreement. It's kind of hard to fight that kind of propaganda with ignorance, such as Lauren Boebert. It's insanity, I'm telling you. It's insanity. Ilhan Omar getting into an elevator with you, and you've been co-workers for a year, and you're scared because she's a Muslim that she might blow the elevator up. Do you know how stupid and fuck shit dumbass that sounds to everyone with an IQ over room temperature? Boy, that's stupid as fuck. I'm scared to get into the elevator with the Muslims because they're going to blow me up. You know, they used to have a show where you smarter than a 5th grader. I know 5th graders that wouldn't say that kind of shit, let alone think it was funny to say it, or that it was somehow a zinger or intelligent. It was none of those things. It was insensitive. It was racist. It was homophobic. It is going to cause more harm than good. More bigotry. More hatred. You fuckers are threatened by everything. You know what? This winter, everybody's just going to be threatened of everything. So therefore, I've already told people what they should do. Make sure you got your bulletproof. Make sure you got your throwing knives. Make sure you got your helmet. Make sure you got your gas masks. Make sure you got ammunition. Make sure you got guns. Because Americans are just terrified of everything. Oh, there's a moth. Let me shoot it. Fucking idiots. Savages and barbarians, I tell you. Savages and barbarians. And you just have to sit back. Everybody just sit back. Get yourself a nice bottle of champagne and sake. Some popcorn. And some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Get a recliner. And stretch it all the way back. And watch the savages do savagery this winter. Because it's bound to happen when you have barbarians and savages running a nation. I'm scared to get in an elevator with a Muslim. Well, there's 3.45 million people who identify under that code in this country. You might get in an elevator with someone who identifies with that code. My suggestion would be don't use an elevator because you don't know. Are you only scared to get into an elevator if it's a Muslim person? Because you know there's Muslim people that work in Subway. There's Muslim people that work in McDonald's. There's Muslim people that work as flight attendants. There's Muslim people that work as Uber drivers. There's Muslim people that work as butchers. There's Muslim people that work as farmers. Are you scared of all those professions too? What a dumb, boneheaded, bullshit-ass, motherfucking, stupid thing to say. Watch the ripple effect of this nonsense go out into the universe. Again, I think the Speaker of the House has to act. You know, Nancy Pelosi has got to be tired as the Speaker of the House of dealing with a bunch of imbeciles who somehow were acceptable to the population that they ran and got elected. She's got to be censored too, just like Paul Gosar. She's got to be removed from her committee assignments too, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar. You can't say these kinds of openly racist and bigoted and hateful things about large groups of citizens in our country. Muslims represent 1.1% of the general American population. 3.45 million people identify as Muslims. Whatever you think about the cult, and I have thoughts about that cult, just like I have thoughts about Christianity, Judaism, Hindu, Buddhism. But people are allowed to practice what they want to practice. Not according to Lauren Boebert. Apparently they might be terrorists. And you can't take elevators. If you can't take an elevator with somebody, you certainly don't want to buy food from Subway. You certainly don't want to get on a flight. They might be your flight attendant. Don't go into Target. They might have Muslims working in Target. Oh, Starbucks too. They might try to poison your coffee at Starbucks. If they're your janitor, you gotta watch the pipes. Electrician, they might blow up your home. They might rig it to blow up your home. If they're your barber, they might cut your neck with the scissors. You gotta be terrified of the Muslims, don't you know? Stupidity. I'm telling you, anytime the diplomats come over and talk about the Uyghurs, oh, this is a softball right out the park. This is a home run. I just have a video of the camps where they're sewing and they're making toys. And they're in school singing and dancing. I would say, this is the Uyghurs in China. This is how we treat our Muslims in China. And then I would have a side-by-side comparison of Lauren Boebert at her dumbass rally with all those white Confederate Nazis standing there. And I would play how she feels threatened by a young Muslim woman of color in America. So threatened, in fact, that she didn't even want to ride the elevator. And she was thankful she didn't have a backpack because it could have been a bomb. I would say, this is how we treat our Muslims in China. They work in shops making toys for us. We're not necessarily scared of them like Lauren Boebert. We don't think they're going to blow up things. I'm telling you, it's not looking good. You know, they say it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. But when the home team is so fucking stupid, it's kind of hard to root for them. We gotta have a brand new Congress. We gotta remove these insurrectionists. Remember, she's probably trying to distract. I mean, here goes a congresswoman who was live tweeting the location of the Speaker of the House as people were in the chambers, had breached the chambers. Insurrectionists had breached the halls of Congress. And as the Speaker of the House is being moved, she's live tweeting it to these individuals. We already know they had text communication paid for by Julie Jenkins Franzelli. We know they had the platform secured, paid for by Rebecca Mercer. And they had a traitor, an insurrectionist, and a white supremacist by the name of Lauren Boebert tweeting out the movements of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. That in itself should have disbarred her from being a Congress member. When you actively try to assassinate the Speaker of the House. But this one's not too far behind. Calling your coworker a terrorist. And 3.45 million citizens who happen to practice a cult, also terrorists. Good job, America. You're doing a great job out there being welcoming. Keep it up. Everybody, just keep up doing what you're doing. Just keep voting for Lauren Boebert. I guarantee you it's going to be great. It's going to be great.